So one of the more mysterious playable characters from the pre-sequel was Jack the Doppelganger. Unlike pretty much all of the other playable characters from the pre-sequel, we don't really ever know what happened to Jack's doppelganger. Did he manage to survive and he is alive after the events of Borderlands 2? Or was he killed in some sort of botched assassination attempt? Today, I want to attempt to answer the question of what happened to Jack's doppelganger from Borderlands the pre-sequel. But before that, we should probably talk for a little bit on the doppelganger's true identity. So if you've played Borderlands the pre-sequel and you visited Jack's office, you will get the opportunity to listen to some random dude's echologs that are found in various locations in the area. These echologs ultimately reveal just exactly who the doppelganger really is.
Mr. Lawrence? Yeah, that's me, Timothy. Please go through the door to your right. Your interviewer will be waiting for you. Do I, need to sign some papers, or? Through the door, please. No, wait, how do I know this isn't some scam to get my kidneys? You applied for this position because you needed money. Beggars can't be choosers. But, okay. All right, I'm ready. Very good, Timothy. How are you feeling? What happened? What is the last thing you remember? There was a door, and you were there, and you asked me some questions, and then I woke up here. Seems the anesthesia we're using is still causing substantial memory loss. Nurse, collect all my notes on experimental post-traumatic stress therapy. I've got some ideas. Doctor. I hooked this one up to trip. No, not until he feels it. We need to make sure the nerves weren't damaged during the surgery. Surgery? What surgery? Shh. Relax. I'll fill you in on everything. My name will be Jack. I work as an engineer for Hyperion. Doctor, I still sound like myself. That will be fixed with the voice modulator implants. Now that you've signed these forms, for the next 20 years you'll be Jack. Jeez. When do I get paid? Soon. Report to Medical Chamber 7. Experiment commentary day 4. Visual transformation complete and all records deleted. Timothy Lawrence, at least on paper, no longer exists. And neither do his secrets. Jack will be very, very pleased.
Hey there, sexy.
What? Are you talking to me?
Of course. Who else would I be talking to? You see any other gorgeous strangers in this place?
No. Guess not.
What's your name? Or should I keep calling you sexy?
The name's Jack. But you can call me whatever you like.
How about the man who bought me a drink?
So in these echologs, we're witnessing Timothy Lawrence's transition into becoming one of Handsome Jack's body doubles. In the first echolog, we're introduced to Timothy, and in the second, it's revealed that he has undergone surgery. In the third echolog, it's revealed that Timothy will be a body double for Jack when he specifically says, and I quote, "My name will be Jack. I work as an engineer for Hyperion." And in the fourth and final echolog, we basically witness Timothy being Handsome Jack. Now, if you're still on the fence, you may still be somewhat suspicious of the fact that Timothy is Jack the Doppelganger. Well, during one of the side quests called Boarding Party, the player can collect echolog dossiers on the various non-DLC Vault Hunters for Borderlands the pre-sequel. And if you are playing as the Doppelganger and you pick up Wilhelm's echolog, Timothy specifically mentions something about how he was surgically altered.
So what do we got on Wilhelm?
Highly trained mercenary. He's worked for every corporation under the sun and has a kill count on par with the population of a small country.
Sounds like just what we're looking for. Any downsides?
He was born with a very mild case of bone waste, which means he's had a lot of skeletal implants. Subsequently, he may have gotten addicted to cybernetic enhancements.
He's addicted to surgically shoving metal into his body.
Yes, he'd be a good hire, but he'd run the risk of him being more machine than man after several years of service.
Frankly, Angel, that sounds totally awesome. Sign him up.
Addicted to surgery. You're insane. Just getting my face changed was like being stabbed in the skull with a rusty screwdriver for 8 hours.
So given what we've seen in the Some Dude echologs, and given how Jack the Doppelganger reacts to hearing about Wilhelm's fascination with surgery, we can basically confirm that Timothy is in fact Jack the Doppelganger. Furthermore, we also know that the body double that you defeat in Borderlands 2 and Jack the Doppelganger aren't the same individual, because unlike Timothy, who was surgically altered to look like Handsome Jack, the body double in Opportunity appears to look and sound like Handsome Jack due to the fact that he was wearing a pocket watch that not only modulated the sound of Handsome Jack's voice, but also gave him a holographic disguise that made him look like Handsome Jack. After all, as soon as the holographic disguise is removed from the Opportunity body double's body, it's revealed that he basically looks like your standard Hyperion engineer. I think that this is also important to mention because unlike certain pre-sequel Vault Hunters like Nisha or Wilhelm, who end up being killed by the Vault Hunters in Borderlands 2, it's still possible that Jack the Doppelganger managed to survive and could be alive during the events of Borderlands 2, and is possibly even alive during and after the events of Tales from the Borderlands. Though I think in order to properly answer the question of whether Jack the Doppelganger is still alive during the events of Borderlands 2 and beyond, we should probably consider the fate of the other Vault Hunters that were under Handsome Jack's employ that weren't killed during the events of Borderlands 2 or afterwards. In the case of Claptrap, better known as the Firestone Claptrap, he managed to miraculously survive the events of the Claptastic Voyage DLC's ending, where Handsome Jack ended up killing all of the Claptraps. In one of the end scenes for the Claptastic Voyage DLC, it's revealed that Claptrap was dumped near the southern shelf and managed to survive due to Shadow Trap still being inside his body. Now, eventually, Sir Hammerlock comes across Claptrap and apparently gets him fixed so that the player characters from Borderlands 2 can ultimately encounter him. Ultimately, Claptrap manages to survive his own death and becomes a pivotal character for Borderlands 2 and can also make an appearance in Tales from the Borderlands. In the case of Athena, she is captured by Brick and Mordecai and brought before Lilith, where Athena ends up telling them about her experience about being under the employ of Handsome Jack, and also tells them the events that take place during the events of the pre-sequel's main story. At the very end of the pre-sequel, just before she is killed by a firing squad under Lilith's command, Athena is saved by the mysterious Watcher, who hints at the fact that they're going to need all of the Vault Hunters that they can get in anticipation for some future threat. So ultimately, just like Claptrap, Athena manages to survive, and we can assume that she becomes a member of the Crimson Raiders. In the case of Aurelia, we pretty much know her fate after the events of the pre-sequel as a result of some dialogue between Gage and Axton during the events of the pre-sequel's Holodome Onslaught DLC. Now, when asked by Tiny Tina who they brought back from EPTA, Axton and Gage revealed that they found Aurelia and brought her back to Pandora.
Hello, Sanctuary. Guess who's back from hunting vaults on other planets? Did you miss us?
And I'm the nerd? I mean, what's the deal here, you guys? First Lilith is like, hunt the vault on EPTA. And then she's like, don't kill the other Vault Hunters. Bring back the one chick you found. War is coming.
Ooh, you brought back a new vault hunting buddy? I want to meet her.
No, you don't. Aurelia is the meanest. What's all this about Athena and some guardian and war?
I'm Athena. I was relating to present company the story of how Jack rose to power.
Of course, after the events of Tales from the Borderlands and Borderlands 2, we pretty much have to assume that Aurelia is either a member of, or at least is allied with, the Crimson Raiders. So, like Athena and Claptrap, she is currently alive as well. With all of this in mind, you're probably wondering, what happened to Jack the Doppelganger, and is he currently alive during and after the events of Borderlands 2 and Tales from the Borderlands? While it's hard to say, since we don't have a whole lot of information, I do think we can make some educated guesses. As far as the story is concerned, Jack the Doppelganger's survival is highly contingent upon whenever the Crimson Raiders meet him. Given how Lilith, Brick, and Mordecai initially treat Athena, we can only assume that Lilith Lilith and the Crimson Raiders had some kind of kill order out on the pre-sequel's Vault Hunters. So if Jack the Doppelganger was met by the Crimson Raider Vault Hunters before they captured Athena, it's highly possible that he would have been killed. However, it's also possible that Jack, aka Timothy, is still alive, assuming the Crimson Raiders didn't run into him before capturing Athena. After all, we know Athena survives, and Lilith ultimately lifts the kill order on Handsome Jack's Vault Hunter hires. Perhaps Jack, aka Timothy, will ultimately end up joining the Crimson Raiders for the next game in the franchise, or at the very least, given that all of the other Vault Hunters from the pre-sequel seem to have joined up with the Crimson Raiders, it seems likely that Timothy might as well, provided he was given the opportunity. There's also the possibility that Jack's doppelganger may have simply been killed at some point between the end of the pre-sequel and the beginning of Borderlands 2. While we definitely know that the Opportunity Body Double and Doppelganger aren't the same person, one of the reasons that Jack had so many body doubles was to ultimately protect himself from assassination. And perhaps in some failed attempt to take control of Hyperion, some would-be assassin killed Timothy, thinking that they had actually killed Handsome Jack. Or alternatively, and while I would say this is less likely, it's possible that we ended up killing Timothy at the very end of Borderlands 2 rather than the real Handsome Jack. After all, Jack saw that he would awaken the warrior at the end of the pre-sequel, and perhaps knowing this, maybe he sent a body double of himself instead. Now, if you ask me, I don't think this is possible given that the Doppelganger and Handsome Jack have two entirely different personalities. Still, it might be a remote possibility, assuming Timothy had some major personality change in the years between the pre-sequel and Borderlands 2. But like I said earlier, I think it's really hard to say what happened to the Doppelganger simply because we have so little information. But if you want my opinion, I would suspect that Jack, aka Timothy, is probably still alive and could potentially appear in Borderlands 3. In fact, having the Doppelganger survive would be a potentially great way to incorporate Handsome Jack's character into Borderlands 3, provided the developers over at Gearbox decided to do so. Damian Clark's portrayal of Jack in Borderlands 2, as well as Tales from the Borderlands, was really well received, and assuming that the real Handsome Jack is truly dead, if Damian Clark were to return to play a character in Borderlands 3, he could easily return playing Handsome Jack's doppelganger. Keep in mind too that Borderlands is a series where you witness TK Baha die only for him to return in one of the add-ons for Borderlands 2. And in the case of Borderlands 1, several villains like General Knox, Commandant Steele, and Dr. Ned end up returning from the dead. So really, I suppose anything could happen. Ultimately though, there's not a whole lot of information out there on the Doppelganger's whereabouts after the events of the pre-sequel. Though if you ask me, I suspect he's probably still alive, and we may possibly even encounter him during the events of Borderlands 3. Especially if Borderlands 3 takes place 5 years or so after the events of Borderlands 2. But alright guys, I think that's going to pretty much wrap up this particular video. If you liked this video, feel free to leave a like, click the bell to join the notification squad, and as always, take care, and I'll see y'all next time.